Ezekiel 36:1. Also, thou son of man, prophesy unto the mountains of Israel, and say, ye mountains of Israel, hear the word of Yahweh. Thus saith the Lord power, because the enemy have said against you, Aha! Even the ancient high places are ours in possession. Ezekiel 36:5. Therefore, thus saith the Lord power, surely in the fire of my jealousy have I spoken against the residue of the heathen and against all Idumea, which have appointed my land into their possession with the joy of all their heart, with the despiteful minds to cast it out for a prey. Kol halal Yahweh Bahasham Yahweh Shai Bahasham Rakaha Kudash. Double honors unto the apostles, double honors unto the elder bishops. Salutations to all my fellow laborers doing this work in truth and sincerity, risking their lives and their freedom to do so, now more so than ever, 144,000. And the scattered elect that are scattered around the four corners of the earth, that be like unto the speckled bird, the Israelite foreigners among the heathen nations that look like the heathen nations. This is not a black thing. And to the few Akwak that are listening and learning, to you, I say Shalom. This is your brother Malcolm from the branch of the Great Millstone in Chicago, coming at you with another quick and precise lesson in prophecy and truth and what is about to happen. Right? The actions that are taking place of the Amalekites projecting their fulfillment of prophecy on to the Ishmaelites, who are the Palestinians, and they're the Palestinians, and there are many Israelites among those Palestinians. All of Israel didn't leave Palestine in the ancient world. Some were still there, and they're very well mixed in with those Ishmaelites that came in. All right, I mean, with those Ishmaelites that took over and that were still there in the land. All right, but we're going to listen to this projection of Amalek projecting their own identity onto other people, trying to hang on to this false narrative that they are the people of the book, when everyone knows that they're the Khazars, and that the Khazars are descendants of Esau, Edom, not Japheth. All right? There is no prophecy that places Japheth in the position of power. There is no prophecy that places Japheth in a slave ruling position over the Israelites. Right? And there is no prophecy that Japheth would have any say-so in the world at the end. The Bible prophesies that Esau, Edom would take the land of the Lord, and that Esau, Edom collectively will be the ruling class people upon the return of the Lord.
The disintegration of the Israeli state, that's my own view. And I think the religious leadership in Israel...
The fact that comment is even being made is more evidence that these people cannot be the people of the Lord. Number one, there is no King David. King David will sit on the throne when Israel returns. Point blank period. There's no argument. Shut the F up. Number two, there will be no weapons pointed toward the sky like you see on the screen. All weapons will be rounded up and destroyed when Israel is established again. And there truly will be peace on earth when they are established. What you're looking at are the events that take place before Israel is established as the power structure and the new government, the kingdom of heaven here on earth. Everyone wants to claim to be a Judeo-Christian or Muslim of some sort and completely ignore the prophecies that are in the Bible, that are on point, that are batting 1,000 without miss on the current subject matter of things that are happening in the earth today.
There are large numbers of prominent rabbis who have reinforced Netanyahu's message, which you've also heard from people like Ben Gvir. And that is that they're dealing with the Amalek, animals that deserve the worst, and that anything you do to the...
Talking about themselves, projection.
Animals that are in front of you is justified. So the notion of any sort of moral restraint is completely absent. And that's a strong view widely shared inside the Israeli population. I'm sure you saw the polling that was on an Israeli television channel, where more than 47% of the population felt that rape and torture and murder and so forth of the Palestinian prisoners was justified. So I think there's deep-seated irrational.
Well, not only that, but these people have been indoctrinated with lies about who they are. Because see, the people at the top in that society, they're very well aware that they're Amalekites, that they're the children of Esau, Edom. All right, they're very well aware that that they're the children of the converts from the Khazarian Empire. But the other half of the people, all right, they're actually taught that they're Jacob, and they believe that. Many of them actually believe that. All right, they believe that they're Jacob and that they deserve that land and that the other people don't matter, when the fact they're the basis of men. All right. Once again, it's funny how they claim to be Jacob, but yet ignore the prophecies that clearly tell them that they're not, and that the only position possibly that they could be, if scripturally and prophesied, as far as prophecy is concerned, is the Edomites.
National hatred. It's been unleashed, and it permeates the atmosphere in Israel. It's very sad, but it's true. And that's not going to go away quickly. The only way to deal with that is to confront it directly. But we're not going to do that. Our government will not confront it. They may say something.
Because the American government is controlled by the non-government organizations, the NGOs that come out of the land of Israel. All right, this very video is in danger because it's speaking the truth. This isn't anti-anything. There's no anti-semantics going on. It's just truth being spoken, and truth is harmful to liars. If I am being wealthy and staying in power because of my lies, the last thing I need is you telling the truth about who I really am and what I'm doing. And if I'm in power, I'm going to deem your truth to be hateful and anti this and anti every goddamn thing. And that's exactly what they do, because these people are trying to hold on to a lie that they fabricated. One of the biggest lies the matter of fact, the biggest cover up in history is who the Israelites are, which is why they had the fraudulent image of who the world fraudulently and falsely called Jesus Christ. His name is Yahweh, always was, always will be.
Private, but from the standpoint of the current leadership in Israel, they know they exert infinitely more influence and control over the Senate and the House in the United States than President Biden, or for that matter, President Harris does.
The Israeli finance minister Smotrich, one of the right-wing members of Prime Minister Netanyahu's cabinet and coalition, stated publicly that the best thing to do would be simply to starve the 2 million residents of Gaza, but he's not sure.
So the fact that they have to go to war and want to starve and kill people and say that, and then come on television and say that that's okay and support it, well, Americans, what it goes to show you the hatred of Esau, Edom, so-called white people, to anyone that's not so-called white, for that matter. All right. And as a result of this, they're, all the economic and everything, without getting all into these things in details, but what they're in the midst of all this war and this fighting and infighting, resources and monies and things are failing and economies are crashing and the nations are mad. All right. And Turkey being one of those nations, which is Togama in the Bible. We're going to get into that about Turkey. But what's happening is that the actions of Bibi Milkowski, also known as Netanyahu, has incited anger in the entire Muslim world. Even though these Muslims, you got Muslims that are so-called Asian, Muslims that are so-called white, Muslims that are so-called Arab, Muslims that are so-called Africans, and even among the others. So you got many Israelites that are also Muslims. But what they've done is they've brought the whole Muslim world together against them. And Israel is about to get smashed. And America is going to get smashed right along with them, trying to help them, because in trying to help Israel, they're even further alienating themselves from the rest of their NATO and EU partners. All right. Because what is it? I think it was just recently, Ireland, New Zealand. Hold on, let me find it. Hopefully I hadn't gotten rid of those images yet. Usually after I post something, I get rid of it. Oh, the water, I still have it. Great job, Ireland, Norway, and Spain. We're proud of you because they recognize Palestine as a state. So those are more EU, NATO partners who are turning against this false narrative, this Israeli narrative. These people are not the Israelites. They are not the ancient Israelites. They are not the people of the book. All right. They are definitely, without argument, without question, descendants of the Khazarians. All right. Even the Ukrainian flag that the Azov Nazi battalion flies is Khazarian, which I just, how do you, explain the Israelis, run into Ukraine and supporting Nazis? It makes no sense. But when you realize they're the same people, then it's like, because Khazaria and Crimea, Crimea, Ukraine, happened to sit where ancient Khazaria was. All right. And as a result of this, going back to, as a result of all these actions, they're turning one of them, the Erdogan, who's the president of Turkey, also Amalekites, who actually changed, who flipped Muslims when the other half flipped to Judaism. But they're literally the same people by blood. But Erdogan is going to go with his Muslim faith, joining on with the rest of the mixed multitude of Muslims, which makes up the gigantic army and the dragons of Arabia, which are going to come out to smash everyone else in the area. And you have to understand, this is prophesied to happen. And they're going to win. And they're going to destroy America and the Israelis. And then when that begins, and when that happens, the Lord shows up and smashes them. All right? That's how this thing is going to go down. Point blank, period. Whether you like it or not. That is what's happening. All right? It's not about to happen. It's happening. The wheels are in motion. All right? The war has started, and it's only going to pass the point of no return. This thing is only going to continue to escalate into everything that I'm telling you, everything that you hear me saying, everything you've heard the elder bros, everything you heard the elder bishops and the apostles speak about. It's all coming to pass. All right, it's all on the table. The meal is being served. All right. So this is Ezekiel, and I'm going to play from about the 10-minute mark, toward the end of this video. All right, because this is only an 18-minute video. I played like the first, 2 minutes. Now I'm jumped to the 10th minute, and I'm going to play from there. But after I read this scripture, let's read Ezekiel, because that's where we are. This is Ezekiel 38:1. It says, "And the word of Yahweh came unto me, saying, Son of man, set thy face against Gog and the land of Magog, the chief prince of Meshach and Tubal, and prophesy against him. And say, Thus saith the Lord, Power, behold, I am against thee, O Gog, chief prince of Meshach and Tubal, and I will turn thee back and put hooks in thy jaws." Because even though he's using them, Russia, China, and the princes of this area, all right, which is this was Japheth's area, but Japheth isn't there. Japheth been moved out of that land for a long time, and Esau, Edom is there. The Russians are primarily our Edomites too, all right, because there's a lot of Jake among them as well, all right. But they're primarily the Edomites in the land of Japheth. So the Lord is speaking to them because the Lord is acknowledging the land as to what he called it, all right. And it says, and the proof of that is when you keep reading. It says, "And when they would turn, I will put hooks in thy jaws, and will bring thee back, and all thine army, and horse and horsemen, and all of those clothed with all sorts of armor, even a great company with buckler and shield, and all of them handling swords. Persia, Ethiopia, and Libya with them, all of them with shield and helmet. So, and the people in Persia are the Iranians, the dragons, all right? And Ethiopians, and it is good that the Lord actually left some people with their actual heritage from the ancient world, because it's easier by identifying them to identify who the ancient Hamites are, and that the Hamites were so-called black, that the Egyptians were black prior to the Ptolemies, when the so-called white man got control over Egypt, and then started, showing you Egyptians and Greeks is actually being pale. No, when they weren't. They were all melanated people until the takeover. All right. It says Gomer and all his bands in the house of Togarmah of the north quarters. All right. The northern part above Israel, in the western portion of Asia, Togarmah, where ancient Mesopotamia is, where Turkey sits today. All right. And all his bands and the people with thee. Be thou prepared and prepare thyself, thou and all thy company, and assemble unto thee, and be a guard unto them. They're going to guard Togarmah. These people are about to go to war and annihilate the Israelis and America off the face of the earth. Thus saith the Bible, thus saith the Lord. And there is no way around this. All right. Esau, Edom is being exposed to the max. And just as much by its own people as by us these latter days.
Or the world would let them get away with that. Hard to imagine a public official saying something like that in public and suggesting it's somehow consistent with international law. I guess that means Israel has its own laws unique to itself and its own standards unique to itself.
Oh, absolutely. And I think you need to take that into account. Their view of what is right and wrong is by no means the same as ours. The last time we saw something like this, it was Yagoda in the Ukraine, where they systematically starved millions of Ukrainians to death. Those they could not shoot or deport were simply allowed to starve and die. And of course, they committed the same kinds of horrendous acts against the population because the Soviets recruited criminals from the prisons under the control of the NKVD, led by Yagoda in Ukraine, to execute the atrocities. That wasn't the only place. They had already starved 2 or 3 million people at a time in various parts of Russia, Central Asia, Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, and so forth. So these things have happened before. They didn't get much attention in the West because we didn't have much access to the information. And there were people in the West that were pro-communist and didn't want that information to get out. Right now, I'm rather surprised that we're hearing these things coming out of Israel, because that suggests that the press, which is almost universally behind Israel, even if they don't like what they do, is allowing these leaks to occur somehow.
Tell me.
That's because most of the press is owned by, well, you know who. They can control most of the media, just like they've controlled most of the education as far as the books. Why? To hide and cover up history, to fit the false narratives that they have pushed upon the whole world.
About Russian technical support for Iran, anticipating a conflagration between Iran and Israel.
Well, as you pointed out earlier, I think you probably even showed part of the Lavrov's, the foreign minister's comments that he made in Tehran and back in Moscow regarding the readiness of Russia to cooperate with Iran. And they signed a treaty with Iran. You could call it a treaty. It's an agreement for military cooperation assistance as well as economic development, because they want to develop this alternative route to the through the Red Sea and the Suez Canal that then runs the length of Iran up through Azerbaijan and then into Russia all the way to St. Petersburg. So I think that was the beginning of even more serious military cooperation. What you're seeing now is really the result of those agreements. We've seen Iskander missiles, ballistic missiles that have been used in Ukraine, as well as I would assume some Kashan cruise missiles, but I haven't seen it. They probably have something like it. But more important, electronic warfare capabilities that the Russians have rarely allowed anybody outside of Russia to utilize and employ. And they're very substantial.
So he just said the Russians have not really allowed people to use electronic attacks, so to speak, which, and, I do believe, I'm not going to say that that's the actual case, but I do believe that America is going to commit these electronic attacks and blame outside entities, create these black swan events so that they have an excuse or the support of the public to move forward with their plans, and also to bring the chaos here to America so that they can come with their draconian rules and measures to shut everyone up, especially people like myself, people like, you see what they've done to Scott Ritter. And mainly, and most importantly, the prophets of the Lord that attach all this to biblical prophecy. That's what worries them and scares them the most. All right. So, what they do, the FBI did to Scott Ritter, is basically an example of the draconian measures that is about to come down upon all citizens of America. You will not be allowed to speak or say, you exercise a typical American law, which is which was this freedom of speech. All right, you're not allowed to do that. All right, you won't be allowed to do that. So this war is about to go completely and totally live. Let me read this last set of scriptures. All right, which is God spoke about it, so I'm gonna go ahead and read it. This is 2 Ezra 15 and 27, and it reads, "For now the plagues come upon the whole earth, and ye shall remain in them. For God shall not deliver you because you have sinned against him." So if you're not delivered, that's because as an Israelite, that's because you're a sinner. And as a matter of fact, to be a sinner, only an Israelite can be a sinner because they're the people that are under the law. All right. But now, since the sins of Esau, Edom, his wickedness has reached the heavens, now everybody's going to receive the judgment, and especially Esau, Edom. All right. For his violence and his continual oppression, the controversy of Zion, Isaiah 34 and 8. "And behold, a terrible vision," verse 28, 2 Ezra 15:38. "And behold, a terrible vision, and the appearance thereof from the east, where the nations of the dragon of Arabia shall come out with many chariots, and multitude of them shall be carried as the wind upon the earth, that all they that hear them may fear and tremble." So the amount of the armies, the billion-man strong army with planes and armored vehicles and tanks and all, they're all going to come out. All right. And Israel is about to learn how small and insignificant they really are, which once again proves that they're not the people of the Lord. All right. And it says, "Also the Carmenians raging in their wrath shall go forth as the wild boar of the wood, and with great power shall they come and join the battle with them, and they shall waste a portion of the land, the Assyrians." All right. So the Carmenians, being the Iranians, they're going to join themselves on with Togarmah. All right. With the rest of the Ishmaelites, the Libyans, the Africans, and all the other Arab nations. All them Allah Akbar's yellers and screamers. Those dudes. All right. Who would scream that as they kill one another. Now they're not killing one another anymore. They've come together. And they've come together because of the activities of the fool Bibi Milkowski. Also, Salakia, 2 Ezra 15:31. "Then shall the dragons have the upper hand." See, it's already written. They're going to win. "Remembering their nature, if they shall turn themselves, conspiring together in a great power to persecute them." So now Esau, Edom, is about to get persecuted and destroyed and annihilated. All right. "Then these shall be troubled, bled, and keep silence through their power, and shall flee. And from the land of the Assyrians shall the enemy besiege them and consume some of them, and their host shall be fear and dread and strife among their kings." And right when these people are getting this great victory, Yahushua is going to show up and that's when there's going to be the war in heaven. because all these planes are going to stop fighting one another and try to fight the Lord. And the Lord is going to smash all hills and mountains, all governments, all armies. All of you about to get put under the boot of what they refer to as aliens. They're not aliens. They're the Israelites. They're the angels of the Lord and the chariots of the Lord. He maketh the clouds his chariots. You know, I was watching the air show yesterday, or the pre-show, and I'm looking at these things that are moving super fast to us, but moving incredibly slow at the same time, because I've also seen what the chariots can do. And these fighter jets and their missiles and their bullets don't stand a chance. Call halal Yahweh Bahasham Yahushai Bahasham Rakah Kodash Kwam Yasharala Abad Babal.